Jana Balaba Jana Balaba Nandana Braja Janarandana Yashodanandana Braja Janarandana Yamunatira Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nam Krishnam Manumati Satchiputram Matra Swarupam Rupam Kasyagrajam Rupurim Matirim Vashavitam Radha Kundam Girivaram Mahoradhikma Bhavasham Prapyasya Pratikadvipaya Shri Gurum Dhammakashmi Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhyaiva Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Nikhilashruti Mala Ratnamala Dipitniranjita Padapankajam Aji Mukta Kularpashramanam Paritashtam Harinam Sanshayami Marpaticharim Chirakkarunaya Vatarnakalam Marpaitamannatadvadarasmi Svabhaktishu Hari Purata Sundara Dhyuti Kadamba Sundipita Sada Hridaya Kundaresh Purato Vasachinandana Ajamalambika Bhujo Kanakavadato Shankarakunai Kapitaro Kamalai Tattu Vishwambaro Dhyavaro Jugadharmapalo Vande Jagatpriyakaro Karunavatar Adina Shakti Sarupaya Gauranga Suridaya Cha Bhakta Shakti Pradhanaya Gadadhara Namaste Ye Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Radhe Vrindavanadhi Karunamrita Vahi Kripaya Nijapadabja Dashamaham Gadiyatam Bhakta Vihinaya Aparadha Lakshaya Chittashta Kumaditanam Madi Kripamaitam Shadanam Kripan Vinde Namaste Chadanarvindam Vinde Namaste Chadanarvindam Srila Gurudev Ki Jai Sriman Mahaprabhu Ki Jai Shri Gurnitananda Ki Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Shri Brajanath Haladar Ji Ki Jai Shri Bhagavan Ki Jai Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Preman Hari 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 Om. So, Pranam to all, good morning, thanks for coming. The ones present here, the one online connected as well. So today we are having another Q&A, our last Q&A here in Kansas, morning Q&A. So, well, as you know, you're invited to present any questions you may have or any topics you may like to be elaborated upon or whatever. So for those of you connected online, you can share that via chat and we will see here in the thread. And for those who here, I hope you're brave enough to share it personally and not via chat. So are there any questions?
I was actually wondering if you could talk a little bit about Balaram. I see a lot of pictures of Krishna. We're always talking about Krishna, and I also hear, Balaram is also the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just kind of having trouble understanding how that works.
Yeah, Sri Balaram Ki Jai.
Jai.
So welcome to Gaudiya Vedanta, having trouble in understanding something. Yeah, I remember a few years ago, Guru Maharaj was speaking about, I think it was Gaur Purnim, speaking about Mahaprabhu and Mahaprabhu being Krishna and Radha Bhav. So he's Krishna and Radha combined, but at the same time he's Krishna and Radha is Radha. And at the end of the class, someone asked, but why God is making the whole thing so complicated? No? Because we hear from other traditions that, if you will, a much more simple idea. No? Like, I don't know, Sri Sampradaya, okay, Narayan is there. Or Christianity, you have God, Jesus, whatever. I mean, I'm sure if you start to analyze each of them, they have their own complexities. But yeah, we can accept that our own school of thought is pretty much complex. So when Guru Maharaj was asked about this, like why God didn't make the whole thing so complicated. Of course, to begin with, as we spoke yesterday, God didn't make anything. Already everything is there. And the point is how he deal with those things that already exist. But and I like what the Guru Maharaj say. He said, actually, God didn't make anything complicated. God is complicated. Now, God is a complex person. I mean, we are complex enough. So, and we are just having a glimpse of the complexity of God's own personality, of personalities, or different forms and faces. So I'm mentioning this because sometimes we may feel this like, wow, Gaudiya Vedanta, we have again Krishna and different Krishnas. What to speak of Balaram and other, just with Krishna himself, you have Krishna in Vrindavan and Krishna in Mathura and Krishna in Dwarka and expansions and these and Balaram, another type of if you read like Lagu Bhagavatamrita of Rupa Goswami, I mean if you don't pass the test, you may go crazy, if you will, because the book he speaks about all the different varieties of avatars and the subdivisions in each division and all these possibilities. Of course, all of this springing from originally from Krishna's two Bhagavan Swayam. So there's this type of unity, if you will, and diversity, achintya beda ved in this particular connection. So of course, Balaram is one of those expansions, sometimes called Vaibhav Prakash. I don't want to torture with technical terms, but basically, Srila Rupa Goswami, his Bhagavatamrita will say, Balaram is a type of expansion in which the only difference between him and Krishna is like variety in emotional content. Padmanabha Prakash, it is said sometimes. The only difference between Krishna and Balaram is the color. And of course, color means emotional. Each color, according to Indian aesthetics, what to speak, our tradition, each color is representing a particular emotion. So to say that the color of Balaram is crystal clear. And sometimes you hear that it's white, but actually it's crystal clear. So it's kind of a reflective personality. Balaram is reflecting Krishna, basically. And we see that happens in many occasions. For example, if you go in Vrindavan to one temple called Dauji Mandir, I mean, there are many Dauji Mandirs, one of them, the ancient one, an old one. And then you will find a deity of Balaram, which is black. So you say, but Maharaj just said that the color was crystal clear. So now it's black. Yeah, because the deity in particular is representing the moment when Balaram went to Vrindavan to send a message to the Brajavasis. After Krishna and Balaram left Vrindavan, went to Mathura, went to Dwarka, and in separation from Krishna, the Brajavasis were suffering so much. Uddhava was sent first, and then Balaram is sent now. So Balaram is going as a representative of Krishna to Vrindavan to represent him. So to say that at one point when he was specially representing Krishna to the gopis, he became so much engrossed into Krishna's mood by expressing what Krishna actually feels for them that his crystal clear hue became black, sham, basically the color of Krishna. So this deity is representing that moment. And further speaking about how much crystal clear Balaram is representing Krishna, how transparent he is in his representation of him. So he's Krishna, but he's Krishna in a particular mood, if you will. And there's a corresponding form to that, if you will. Sometimes it is called Sevaka Bhagavan. We have these terms also. Krishna is Sevya Bhagavan, Balaram is Sevaka Bhagavan. The two of them are Bhagavan, Supreme Lord, God, but one is in the mood of a servant and one is in the mood of receiving the service. So Krishna is receiving the service from everyone. Of course, as we spoke these days, he's also a servant. No, but in one sense, he's the main object of service and love for everyone in Vrindavan. He's the Vishaya Alambana, which means, the perfect object for Bhakti Rasa, for love to be directed to. No, that's Krishna, the perfect ideal personality that can receive and reciprocate accordingly to all varieties of love. And Balaram is Sevaka Bhagavan, not Sevya. Sevya means the one who receives seva. Sevaka means the one who is mostly engaged in offering seva. So Balaram has to do mostly with that type of identity. He's serving Krishna, and he's serving Krishna in so many ways. He's serving Krishna. He's mostly connected with Krishna as a Saka, as a friend who plays with him and so on. But also the emotional composition of Balaram includes, thank you, Dasya and Vatsalya, mostly. He also acts at times as a servant of Krishna. He also at times acts as an elder of Krishna. He's Doji. The Doji means the elder brother, basically. Although as Guru Maharaj says, although 8 days elder, but somehow Jashoda has projected that idea on him by emphasizing, take care of him, you are the elder brother, take care of him, you are the elder brother. Okay. So, of course, there are many things that can be said, and our Guru Maharaj in particular has really very nicely expanded on Balaram. In his forthcoming book, that will be a fact, there will be many sections about Balaram. He shared a trailer of that in a series of articles that were shared in the Harmonist, I think 2 years ago, before Baladeva-tattva. So also you can go there for further exploration. There are like 8 articles, all of them speaking about Balaram, Ananga Manjari, and different aspects, and Baladev, Rasa Yatra, Rasa Leela, that recently was also celebrated. But in brief, we could say that Sri Balaram is of course Bhagavan. Again, we have to always be accustomed in our Gaudiya tradition to think in terms of Veda Ved. Like there's unity, there's one thing, and there's diversity on the basis of that unity. So when we speak about the absolute, the Bhagavatam say Advaya Gyan Tattva. The absolute is non-dual. It's non-dual consciousness. Advaya Gyan Tattva means the absolute is non-dual consciousness. So there's unity. And even from that side of the equation, which means Abed, non-difference, we are part of that. I mean, there's, in one sense, everything is Krishna, although it may sound Advaita Vedanta, but that's only one part of our equation. For Advaita Vedanta, that's the whole equation. Everything is Brahman. We will say, in one sense, everything is Brahman because nothing is isolated from Brahman. Everything is somehow part of that, connected with that in the form of being a Shakti of that. That's when we enter into the qualification of Brahman. Brahman being qualified, not unqualified, but it has Shakti, for example. That's what the Shruti says. Parasya Shakti Vidhaiva Shruyate. The absolute Brahman is possessed of Shakti, of potency. And that potencies, different potencies, not only one, create allow for variety to happen. And we are one of those potencies, the Jiva. Swarup Shakti is another potency, as we know, Maya Shakti. So the point is this, but the absolute is one, but there is diversity. And when we consider the diversity because of the Shakti in the context of especially Swarup Shakti, all these different forms of Bhagavan appear. As our Guru Maharaj likes to say, he likes to describe the topic of Avatar Tattva as emotional moments in the life of the Absolute. So that said, of course, Balaram is not an avatar, technically speaking, of Krishna, although sometimes he's described in the context of Das Avatar Stotram. Balaram is included there along with Krishna. The two of them are actually described as one unity, not because they are avatar in the sense of they come from Vishnu, but because they are descending into this world to perform their lila. That's also means avatar. Avatar means from up to down, coming from the Paravyam, the spiritual world, and coming to this world without being touched by the influence of this world. So Krishna is the avatari, the source of all avatars, but he's also avatar in the sense that he's performing this descent, as Mahaprabhu does as well. So that particular descent is generally described Krishna and Balaram, the two together. Like sometimes when Mahaprabhu is praised, he's also praised along with Nityananda Prabhu. The two of them, as our Guru Maharaj says, are the Samasti Gurus of the Gaudiya Sampradaya, the principle of the universal Guru Tattva principle in our Sampradaya. Gaur Nityananda, Bandit Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Nityananda Sahodito, Kodadai Pushpavantu, Chitra Sangdotamo. So interestingly, when another section were for further exploration, because so again in this Q&A I can give some brief reply to any question, but it's also nice to have some homework to do for further exploration, to study in further detail. So apart from this article from my Guru Maharaj that I mentioned, also Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami in Chaitanya Charitamrita, he also, when he's explaining the 5 members of the Panchatattva, and he arrives at Nityananda Prabhu, I mean, interestingly, he dedicates to Nityananda Prabhu more verses than to any other member of the Panchatattva, even more than Mahaprabhu himself. Because again, Nityananda Prabhu is a very complex figure to understand, so his position needs to be ascertained very clearly. His avadutness can be easily misunderstood. And there he explains about Balaram, because of course Nityananda is not different from Baladev. It's Balaram appearing in Gaur Lila. And and then Balaram is expressed again in the context not of avatar, but of Prakash. Prakash means expansion. Panchatattvam makam Krishnam bhakta rupan sarupakam bhakta avataram bhakta kyam namami bhakta shaktikam. So there is this mention that you have bhakta avataram, the avatar, but avatar is connected with Advaita Charya. So Mahaprabhu is Shaktimam, Swayam Bhagavan, supreme energetic source. Gadadhar Pandit is representing Swarup Shakti, Srivas Thakur representing the perfected Tatastha Shakti, Advaita Charya is representing the principle of avatar, and Nityananda is representing the principle of divine expansion. Not, of course, they come to this world as well. In that sense, you can say avatar, they're descending, but actually, avatar in connection to Advaita, of course, is in connection to Mahavishnu, through which all the avatars come into this world. But Nityananda Balaram has to do mostly with the immediate expansion of Krishna. Krishna Das Kaviraj will give a very maybe technical, complex explanation of Krishna, and then Balaram, and from Balaram, the first Chaturvyuha expanding Vasudev, Sankarsam, Pradyumnana, Niruddha in Vaikuntha. Then you have another Chaturvyuha outside of Vaikuntha, and from that all these Mahavishnu's Purusha avatars and Ananta shares, so many expansions, but the origin of them all, he will say, is this Nityananda, that some people may think is a madman, but actually he's the source of this world, if you will. The Vishnus that through which the world expands. So again, Nityananda is not different from Baladev. So this is a little bit of ontological truth about Balaram, like the Ishvarya of Balaram, who he is in those terms. And of course, we have the sweetness of Balaram, if you will, if you understand, which is his role, his position in the Leela, and how much he only lives to please Krishna, basically, as a friend mostly. That's the main emotional component of his makeup, if you will. He mostly identifies as a servant of Krishna, in the context of friendship. Again, not servant like Vaikuntha or anything, but again, Sevaka Bhagavan. That's very much highlighted, as Guru Maharaj mentions, where some gopis want to marry him, and Balaram is not at all into that, because he says his identity is with Krishna, basically, not like I will have my Rasa Leela with my gopis. No, that's Krishna. I mean, although he eventually had that, but just because there was so much social pressure for him to marry them, like Krishna asking them, then when he went to Vrindavan, Nanda Maharaj asking them, and then Sri Radha asking him, please marry them. They have been waiting for lots of time, because those gopis, as Guru Maharaj will say, had had a crush on Balaram. When Krishna and Balaram were in Vrindavan, were in the holy festival, and he married them when he returned from Dwarka to Vrindavan, which was decades and decades after that. And at that point, even he was not that interested, because his main, again, emotional makeup is towards Krishna. Not like to be a separate center and receiver of service, if you will. Although, as Guru Maharaj mentions, for those who have an affinity to Sakyabhava, Balaram will also be not only like a role model that how to serve Krishna, but also someone towards whom the Gopas will have some desire to serve. Balaram will be like also a role model that they will like to serve. He's showing how to serve, but he's also becomes the focus of service for many in the Gopa gang or group, basically. So also interestingly, just to mention one more point, Balaram is connected usually with the principle of guru as well. And there again, I know it's complex, different connections and different identities and possibilities. But many times also Balaram, Nityananda Prabhu, they are connected with this principle of Akhanda Guru Tattva, or like the like in uninterrupted department of Guru Tattva, basically. Like sometimes the original Guru, different ways of portraying him. And I would say because in great part, because again, Balaram is so much absorbed in serving Krishna in every possible situation and mood, even, like implying how much he's absorbed in this idea of pleasing, giving pleasure to the object of his affection. So somehow Guru is an agent for that reality, for that department, someone who really is teaching us how to serve, how to become experts in pleasing from every possible angle, which of course doesn't mean that we will imitate Balaram. Okay, I'm in Sakya with Vatsalya, with Madhura. That's like unique in Balaram. In our context, it will be more than enough to be focused in one particular affinity in Krishna Lila, and as Gaur Lila, there will be something as well. They're waiting for us. So, someone is calling. Someone has a question there. Anyhow, some words about Balaram. Of course, we can continue speaking about him, but also I'd like to give some place to other questions. And again, you have some homework to do for further exploration of this particular topic. Sri Balaram Prabhu ki jai. So, any other question from the
Guru Maharaj mentions that the Balaram's gopis are descended from the Snake Dynasty. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Do you know anything about that? I just haven't mentioned that a couple of times.
You have to go to those articles that I have just mentioned. That's when he's giving all the quotes in connection with with Balaram, Anantashesh being like an expansion of Balaram, Anantashesh being from the, if you will, snake community. and this group is also been having some connection with the Nagas, which is that particular species, if you will. So I cannot recall at present which is the exact quote that gives reference to that point, but I remember that in the article itself it's ascertained in further detail. But that's mainly the connection that it's made between Balaram as in his expansion as an Antashesh. I mean, they were in the Krishna Lila as gopis, they were attracted to Balaram as Balaram, but somehow the Guru Maharaj shares there like some form of background connection or reference point to the gopis DNA, if you will, in connection to the Nagas, and Balaram's also, if you will, connection to his form as an Antashesh, and somehow establishing some species affinity in terms of serpenthood or something. No?
It's not a big thing.
Yeah, it's a detail, but that's further ascertained with some reference to Shastra in one of these articles. you don't know which articles I'm talking about, I can later share
In
the
the harmony.
yeah, it's in the
Maybe we
harmony.
could
It's a
have
series like of 7 or 8,
maybe.
which is a whole section of Sakya Mandal, Guru Maharaj's forthcoming book, and concerning Balaram. So he published them as a trailer before, like 1 week before Baladeva-tattva or something. So every day was some new article building up to Baladeva-tattva like 2 years ago or something. What else? Any questions from the last person here, there?
Do you
Yeah.
have any online?
No,
You,
not yet.
every day you chant a verse, Mangalacarana verses,
Mm-hmm.
and one is Vinde Namaste Chanaravinda,
Mm-hmm.
and it's so attractive, but I don't know what it's from and what it means. I was wondering if you could talk about that.
Okay. Yeah, I can mention something about that. Remember some years ago, Sakyarati Devi asked me in Madhuban to give a whole class explaining every verse of my
I
Mangalacarana.
remember that. I remember you.
Oh,
you
So
did
that was
Yeah, that was a beautiful class.
that was a little bit longer. There was a whole class on that, but in this case, we can share some words about that specific one, which says Bhaktya Bhina Parada Lakshaya Kshiptas Chakamadi Tarangamadye Kripamaitam Sharanam Prapanam Vrinde Namaste Charanarvindam. So this verse comes from the Vrindadevyastakam,
Ah,
composed by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So he composed the whole Ashtakam for Vrindadevi. And this is the last verse of the Vrindadevyastakam. I mean, this the 8th verse is, if I'm not mistaken, there may be a ninth one, which is kind of false Shruti, which as the Guru Astakam. Astakam means 8 verses,
right.
but there's a 9th one, which is mostly sharing, which is the fruit of singing this particular song and so on. No? So generally, Astakams have this 9th verse, but this is, if I'm not mistaken, I can further clarify, but it's the 8th one, the last one. So the meaning of the prayer basically is Bhaktya Bihina Aparadha Lakshaya. So the very first words say Bhaktya Bihina. Bihina means devoid of or without, and Bhaktya means bhakti. The very first 2 words show that bhakti is not inherent. I mentioned that in my book at one point. I have no bhakti. Say I'm devoid of bhakti. So of course, if bhakti is inherent, how can you say that? No. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur begins. It's of course a prayer to Vrindadevi, and it will make more sense if one goes through all of the first 7 verses. We don't have time here now, because this is the concluding one. So it's like a prayer in full humility. I mean, from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, not from my side yet. But he's saying, okay, I'm devoid of bhakti. Aparada Lakshaya. No? Aparada means aparad, and Lakshaya means like a lot, like a lakh. No? Like I'm full of aparad. No? And somehow you can connect. Because of aparad, I have no bhakti, or whatever bhakti came to my life run out from me because of my offenses. No? So of course, again, we have to invoke these prayers in a sincere way, not neurotic. No, like I'm an offender, I have no bhakti. But it's a particular emotional moment in which Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is making a point in full humility. So Bhaktya Bihina Aparada Lakshaya. Again, I'm totally devoid of bhakti due to my constant offenses, basically, if you want to put it like that. Kshiptas Thakamadi Tarangamadye, which means I'm Tarangamadye. Taranga means like ocean, and Madhye means in the middle of. Kshiptas Thakamadi, and I'm being affected by Kama Adi. Kama means last, and Adi means in Sanskrit, etc. Basically, no. So I'm being sometimes the analogy is I'm being beaten by the sharks because the ocean sometimes is compared to samsara. No? Sometimes this analogy is there, to cross over the ocean of samsara. And sometimes we speak about the anarthas as the sharks and so on, and the human body as the appropriate ship to cross the ocean, and the guru is the captain of the ship, and the advice from Shastra is like favorable winds. And we are the how do you say in English? The marine? No, those who travel in the navy, who works in the navy and work in the ship. And we are not the one who is the captain. We are just
We're the sailors.
so the only thing that we so we are in the boat, and the only thing that we are suggested to not to do is do not jump from the ship to the ocean and try to swim back to the shore where you started your journey. Srila Srila sometimes gives this example, like the spiritual life is a journey. So in the beginning of the journey, we may be very enthused. Like when you start a journey, you take in a boat and you will cross the ocean and go by boat to, I don't know, whoever, Australia or whoever, anyhow. So the ship is leaving, and you are just entering, excited in the ship, and your family is on the shore taking pictures, and you are, bye, mom, see you soon, and everything is like exciting. Oh wow, we are entering the ocean, and the trip will last for months. And when you arrive to your destiny, again, excitement is there. Oh, we are arriving we see the shore, there is the Australian border or whatever. But in the middle of the journey, when you just see ocean, north, west, east, south, there's no point of reference. You don't know where you are. You don't even realize, is this moving or what? That's more difficult. No? And you may even think, maybe we will never arrive there. Maybe I should jump from the ship and swim back to the shore. At least that was some safe place. No? So Srila Srila says, sometimes in our journey, we may have this type of apprehension. But we have to trust the captain of the ship. We have to trust that the ship is properly done to arrive to destiny. The human body is configured to give us that gift. We have to trust that the captain went to that destiny many times and came back. No, we have pictures of the captain arriving to that, and we have to trust the favorable winds. No, because if you want to jump, there are some sharks there waiting for you and some other beasts of the water. No? So again, all this in the analogy of Kshiptas Chakamadi Tarangamadi. No? So it means I'm in the midst of the ocean and not in, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is presenting, I'm not in the midst of the ocean inside the ship. I'm one of the ones who jumped from the ship and is trying to swim back. So now I'm like just on my own, swimming in the midst of a big unending ocean, and so many beasts from the sea are attacking me. Kama Adi. So Kama means again lust, and Adi means etc. Many times in Shastra you have this type of thing. Anyapi lasita sunyam jnana karma adi anabritam. Adi. Adi means like, and so on, etc. So of course, etc. after Kam means Kam, Krodha, Lobha, Mada, Moha, Matsari, for example. Lust, anger, greed, and so on. Envy, illusion, and so on. So this is the second line. Again, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is expressing himself with deep humility. So I have no devotion, full of aparad, and I'm thrown into this ocean of material existence affected by all these elements of lust and so on. So he's presenting his, the first half of the equation is presenting his unfortunate situation, basically, in full vulnerability, full fragility, and trying to ascertain where I am. Of course, we will say he's not there, actually. No, he's so high, but at the same time, he's feeling, and this is an interesting point that I like to mention, because we may say, okay, no, but he's not there. So what's the point? That he was making a show while saying that? He was not feeling that for himself. He was just thinking, okay, I will compose this prayer so these guys in Maya feel identified with. But I'm totally beyond that. No. Or Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he's singing in Sharanagati and saying so many things about himself, like I'm happy with others are suffering, I'm suffering with others are happy, I'm full of envy. He's really feeling that, and that's why we can make an emotional bond with that, because the author is feeling that for himself, but at the same time we know he's not there. So the question is, how does it work? How he feels something that actually he's not there? Now, Bhaktivinoda Thakur will say, I'm full of lust. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying here's basically the same. I'm full of lust. So we're like, man, if we accept that, our whole parampara is compromised. Our whole parampara are bogus people full of lust. We know it's not the fact by studying their life and teachings and so on. So how to understand it? Of course, there are many, we can try to solve that in many ways, but personally, once this idea came, regarding to what Srila Sridhar Maharaj once said, that he said that the more you get closer to the infinite, the more you perceive your own infinitesimal nature, and you can, the more you approach him, the more you realize there's no limit to make progress. So in that sense, in one sense, I'm nowhere. I cannot ascertain my position. Now I'm here in the infinite, because there's so much more you can advance. And the more you advance, the more you realize how much more you can advance. The more you love Krishna, the more you realize how much more you can love Krishna. So it will never come the day that we'll say, finally, I love Krishna. You follow? Mahaprabhu said that same thing. Na prema gandosti darapi harume. He said, in me, there is not even this scent aroma of love of Krishna. So, if you study the life of Mahaprabhu, if he doesn't have love for Krishna, nobody has love for Krishna. Nobody has exhibited the degree of love and ecstatic sensation that Mahaprabhu showed. And he's saying, not even the aroma of that is present in me. So again, and we may say, that's his humility. Yes, but how does that humility plays out? Because he's not making a show. He's not lying. Oh no, I don't have love for Krishna, but actually inside feels I'm full of love for Krishna. No, he's really feeling that, but he's really having that. But again, this is in connection to this unique subjective experience of getting closer to the infinite and proving there's no limit to that. So no matter how much you have, there is so much more you can have, that the contrast of how much more you can have to what you have, which may be a lot, still plays out in I don't have anything of that. Because so much, you are overwhelmed by the prospect of how much more is there waiting for you. So in that sense, my conclusion was, okay, someone like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, they are so full of prem, they're made of that substance, but they say I'm full of lust. Why? Because in their inner subjective experience, they realize so much more of this can be attained, so much more I can love Krishna, that in comparison to what I have, I'm full of lust. That's like the subjective experience. It's difficult if we are not there to fully grasp that reality. But so something in connection to the second line, So the first two lines again, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is presenting, this is my case. This is who I am. I'm totally conditioned. I'm totally an offender, devoid of bhakti, full of these anarthas. And therefore, and now comes the third and fourth line, especially the third line, Kripama itvam sharanam prapanam. Vrinde namaste charanam. Which is the last line is in every single line of the Astakam, like many Astakams, no? Bande Gudosri Charana. So Kripama itvam sharanam prapanam means Kripamai means you are made of mercy. He's addressing Vrindadevi, remember?
Mhm.
So Kripamai. Kripamai is the female for Kripamai. Krishna is known as Kripamai, Rasa Rasika Kripamai. So Kripamai is the female, so it's applied to whoever is full of that. Kripa means mercy, and Mai means whose nature is of that, full of that. So you are mercy personified. You are full of that. It's not that you have, you are made of that. Kripamai Tvam means you. So you are Kripamai, Sharanam Prapanam. Therefore, I take shelter. Sharanam Mamekam Sharanam Braja, Krishna says, shelter. Prapanam means surrender, basically. So I surrender unto you and take shelter of you who are full of mercy. Like implying, I mean, with all my faults, with all that I have just said in the first two lines, you are my only shelter. I mean, I cannot present my case into the Justice Department. I will be a loser immediately. No? But since you are full of mercy, you are one of the many agents, representatives of the Grace Department. I know, although I do not deserve that, I will deserve something else. I'm in need of grace and shelter. So this is my case. So Kripama Itvam Sharanam Prapanam Brinde Maste Charanara Vindam. The last line says, I offer Namaste, I offer Pranam, obeisances to Charanara Vindam, to the lotus feet of Brinde, of you, O Vrindadevi. So I surrender to you, offering Pranam. So that's the basic general idea of the verse. No? This kind of petition. No? And generally, many of these astakams, the last verses are a little bit in that connection. Not always, but they are like one. The author is, okay, this is my case. No? This is me, and this is you. No? This is my nature, no? Totally falling and entangled. This is your nature, full of mercy. And therefore, considering my nature, considering your nature, which is the deal we can establish here, no? The relation we can establish. Me, I am a fallen, and you are the redeemer. No? There are many sections in Shastra like this. Haridas Thakur also prayed like this to Mahaprabhu. Now, my nature is I'm fallen, and your nature is Patitat Pavan. So our rasa is already established. I'm Patit, and you are Patit Pavana. I'm the fallen, you are the redeemer of the fallen. So that's our unavoidable relationship. So please give me your mercy. And I offer pranam to you. That's basically the meaning of the prayer. And generally, many Mangalacharans, there are prayers like this to Vrindadevi or to Tulsi Devi at the end of Mangalacharan. There is some kind of sequence that many times Mangalacharans are finished with some prayer to or Tulsi Maharani, Vrindayai, Tulsi Devi, and so on. Or Vrindadevi, who is, as we know, non-different from Tulsi Maharani, basically.
This is this on the door there.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Like Vrindadevi.
Yeah.
We actually, I had a friend, or I have a friend, not as complicated, but he had a temple in Radhakund, and they gave they have a temple of Vrindadevi there. They worship Vrinda. Anyway, they gave him a murti of Vrindadevi, and he took it back to Scotland and worshipped it on its own altar, which I thought was kind of different for Gaudiya Vaishnava, but it was very beautiful.
Oh yeah,
very beautiful, very merciful deity. So yeah, that's the only one outside of Vrindavan.
Sorry, what?
That's the only deity of Vrindadevi outside of Vrindavan.
There are a few ones. Yeah. There's a very old Vrindadevi temple outside of Vrindavan. I mean, in one of the 12 forests, not in the forest of Vrindavan. A few ones, but yeah, it's a very interesting. I mean, Vrindadevi is a whole chapter to describe and to analyze how her role in the Lila, as a Dutika, as a messenger, and how she's orchestrating all these different arrangements and invoking the proper season and blossoming of particular fruits and flowers for every particular Lila they say. And he's always like absorbed in that particular dynamics of arrangements. And so, of course, it makes sense to pray to her also, in the sense that we are in such a situation that we need a very expert orchestrator to make arrangement for us to be uplifted from where we are to attain our eternal prospect of service. We need someone very capable for that. So Vrindadevi is that person, if you will, if you want to put it in those terms. Yeah.
She also seems to work very closely with Purnamasi.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very connected. The principle of Yogamaya, Purnamasi with Vrindadevi is basically, we are speaking about basically the same department, if you will. No? Yeah.
I have a question.
Can I ask a quick
Oh, sorry,
follow-up?
excuse me.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask a quick.
Yeah, yeah,
follow-up.
yeah.
Well, I want to, I don't, maybe it's an okay follow-up question. It might not.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm wondering about Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur.
Mm-hmm.
So he's composed these prayers to Vrindadevi.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just wondering if you can help make that connection. I'm wondering, I don't know how to put it into words. What's his mood? What's his, how did he get to that point of making these prayers to Vrindadevi? Their specific prayers.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm asking in relation to, see, it might be a bit of a presumptuous question. I'm asking in relation to, what's his inner mood,
Mm-hmm. Well, we don't know that many details about that. I mean, of course, we know he's Vinod Manjari, he's Siddha Deha, he's Siddha Swarup in Krishna Lila. He's a Manjari, and he's called Vinod Manjari. But I mean, that I know, I mean, I don't want to mention something totally, absolutely conclusive, but that I know, I've not heard about the details, the possible details as to why he composed this prayer, in the sense of if there is some connection, I don't know, between him as Vinod Manjari in the Lila and Vrindadevi, if they have some particular, whatever, a special affinity and connection, and that's why he's praising Vrindadevi in particular. I would say that in general, I mean, that's not the only prayer to Vrindadevi for sure. I mean, there are many others composed by other acharyas. So my point is, it's not only that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is showing some special affinity to the point of us wondering what must be his particular connection. It's like if we say this acharya composed a glorification to Mahaprabhu or to someone, and why some particular, no, that's like natural to. So for example, his Braja-Vilas-Tava, Srila Raghunath Goswami, he also glorifies Vrindadevi, maybe not with the full Astakam, but with certain verses. And Srila Rupa Goswami also in Utkalika Balari, which is his last book, which is a book like where he's mostly crying and praying in the context of his own Manjari Bhav. He's praying to Vrindadevi. That's a very nice verse. It says, Hridichira Vasadasa Mandala Lamba Pado Gunavati Tavanat Nati Tumjam Turesa Shapadi Babadunukyam Yachate Devi Brinde Mayi Kira Karunardram Drishti Matra Prashrida. So again, oops, this went out, sorry. So he's directing himself to Vrindadevi and saying, "Oh, Sri Brinde, no, Radha and Krishna are your Lord and mistress, basically. No? So, and I have carried the desire in my heart to see them for so long, but only by your grace this can be fulfilled, basically. And therefore I prostrate myself before you with the hope and quietly pray that you kindly instruct me how can I attain the vision of my beloved, of your reigning God and Goddess. No? Of your Radha and Krishna, basically, no? Over in the Devi or virtuous, how to say, like nymph, you say, of the forest. Radha and Krishna, they have been for so long the object of, that's implication, the object of every desire that I carry within me, Rupa Goswami said. No? Therefore, I'm asking your permission before approaching them. Turn your eyes, which are moist with mercy, in my direction. Please be merciful to me. So again, we find this type of prayers in all of our acharyas, basically. So in that sense, I want to make clear that it's not that necessarily there is something special that, I mean, there's always something special in all of them, but not necessarily in connection to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Vrindadevi. But it's interesting, the more we study the books of our acharyas, we will find this type of verses in almost all of them, basically. Shrimati Vrindadevi ki jai.
I know it's getting a bit late, Maharaj, but I did have one other question. I don't know.
There is one question online here also. So
okay.
Let me see. Can I give place to this question?
Of course.
Yeah, with your permission.
Yeah.
Okay, there's one question. I don't know the name of. I mean, the name says Grace Note 108. That's a good name. It says, can you talk about how Krishna protects his devotees? Sometimes you hear about how some bad things happen to devotees, while other times you hear about how devotees escape trouble. There appears to be a variety in how Krishna protects his devotees. Prahlad Maharaj received full protection mentioned in the Bhagavatam, but then you hear about how devotees faced violence in Vrindavan a few hundred years ago. So basically, that's the question: how Krishna protects his devotees, and yeah, basically, what you are mentioning is, I will say basically that the important fact is that Krishna protects his devotees. How he does so, I mean, we don't know. We cannot ascertain. In each case, it will be different because each case will require a particular type of protection. Because when we say Krishna protects his devotees, we are protecting them from something. And that something will vary, in each case. So the protection will take a different form. And one thing is, I need to protect you from, I don't know, envy. I need to protect you for fire in your house. I need to protect you from a physical attack of a bull. And how I protect you, that will take so many different ways. But the principle is the same. Krishna protects his devotees. Mm-hmm. As we have been speaking these days, Rakshishati Vishwasu, one of the aspects, crucial aspects of Saranagati is Rakshishati Vishwasu. To have Vishwas, firm conviction, Rakshishati. Krishna is acting as Rakshak, as guardian, as protector. He is my guardian. He is my to develop, no matter which form it takes. I would say that that's even more important because sometimes we may get overtly, even conditioned, attached, distracted at how the protection should take place. And that's up to Krishna to decide. Because we don't have a very clear idea of what we need to be protected from. So we may have an idea. We may have our own idea. Krishna, please protect me from this. And Krishna is thinking, no, you actually need to be protected from this other thing. So my protection will go in connection to what you actually need to be protected from. But if we are attached to, I need to be protected from this, and what Krishna sends seems not to correspond from what I think I need to be protected from, I may think, why Krishna is not protecting me? And actually, Krishna is protecting you from something much, way more dangerous than what you think you need to be protected. You follow my point? So we have to be, I'm trying to emphasize this side of the reply, because if not, we may be too attached how Krishna will protect me. But we don't know, because we don't know generally what do I need to be protected from, at least on a certain stage. So I would recommend better to try to emphasize this idea, not so much Krishna protect me from this in this way, because sometimes we have the whole thing figured out. No, Krishna, please, I need to be protected from this, and we think we already know we need to be protected from this, and sometimes we have the audacity to even say, and the protection should come in this particular packaging. This should be happening to me in order for you to be protecting me. And Krishna will say, I have to protect you from you thinking all that stuff. I have to destroy all that thinking you're having. So I will protect you for sure. But if we are not sincere, we will think Krishna is cruel, Krishna is attacking me, Krishna is not replying to my prayers, where I very sincerely was telling him what to do. And Krishna like, oh my God, I mean, you are a mess yet. You have to grow and understand. You don't have a clue what do you need to be protected from. You are generally probably walking to the, how do you say in English? The cliff. You're walking off the cliff without realizing that, and just running in that direction and praying to me that I increase your speed to walk in that direction, and you think that that's my protection, and I'm just trying to save you. No? So So we need to understand that. No, of course, Krishna debate and say, for example, yasyam anugrina mi harishit tadhanam shnai. If I want to show my special grace to someone, I deprive that person gradually from all their wealth. And of course, what does it mean? Because some people may say, okay, that's the way Krishna protects. He takes you everything away. But what does it mean? What does it mean that he takes away all our wealth? What's wealth for you? What's wealth for you? It's not necessarily money, house, car. It's whatever you are considering valuable, which has nothing to do with Krishna. Because the real value is Krishna. If you understand that, he won't take that away from you. He's only referring to anartha. Anartha means false sense of value. Artha means wealth. Dharma, artha, kama. Artha means wealth, value. So anartha means false sense of value. I'm giving value to something that has some value actually. Not like counterfeit money. I'm projecting value in something that actually is not having any purchase capacity. So Krishna is saying, I gradually deprive you from that false sense of value, from that anartha vision. And he says shanai, he says gradually, like implying, I consider your situation, I won't be that wild to take everything and you go traumatic and kill yourself because it was too much for you. Gradually, according to the capacity you have to deal with that. But of course, we have to be willing also for him to be part of our life and do that work. So again, here the question is presenting different examples, and the examples are showing Krishna is protecting his devotees in different ways. No? And that it doesn't mean this, and this one point, because recently we have been speaking with some devotees, I don't know, regarding the Ukraine situation. And okay, let's pray so Krishna protects the devotees. But what does it mean? It doesn't mean that they won't be killed. Of course, we don't want anyone to be killed. But the point is, Krishna to protect someone doesn't mean that person won't be killed, or that person won't be sick, or that person won't have an accident. It means that person, if that person has to go through that, will remain sheltered in Krishna, will have this conviction, Krishna is my protector. And I'm going through this for whatever reasons. I mean, I may not even know why I'm going through this, but I have to have this trust. Krishna is protecting me. Stuti that will come later. Tatte nukampam sushamikshamo bunjana vatma kritam vipakam kritbabapurvi vidadan namaste jiveta jamukti padesadaiva. He who really is looking for my mercy says, I mean, Brahma is praying to Krishna. He who is really looking for your mercy, he's saying to Krishna, Tatte anukampam. That person will be tolerate all that is coming to their life, understanding this is the result of my previous misdeeds. But actually, and while doing so, he will think, glorify you with words, mind, and body. But actually, the spirit of that tolerance will be, actually, if I have to receive the actual results of my previous misdeeds, I will have to receive something much worse than this. But Krishna is so merciful that he has reduced the result of this that is coming in whatever form. So he's protecting me. And you end up being grateful and confirming this is Krishna's mercy. So yeah, to be protected by Krishna doesn't mean that something won't happen in our lives. Or yes, something won't happen in our life. We won't forget Krishna. That's his protection. We will remain with faith in him, with sheltered in him. That's to be protected. No matter you are killed or not killed, or live in a palace or live with a homeless person, those things we have so many examples of devotees. It's not that all devotees are, I don't know, sannyasis, homeless, no accident, full of accident. I mean, so much variety. In the question, some examples were there. There's so many more. You cannot trace like one line, like, oh, all of them had the same symptoms, and every devotee should, Krishna showing his grace to the devotees in this unique way. It's totally individual. Well, remember, we are personalists. Krishna is a person, we are a person, and he deals with that on a personal way. It's not just some abstract, generic, okay, here goes my protection to every one of you in the same way. No, because we are different people in different situations and places. So So it's a very specific treatment, if you will, to each one of us. But the general overall idea is he's protecting. No? Krishna says in the Gita, Yoga Kshemam Bahamyaham. No? I give to me Ananyas Chintayantumam Jayana Paripashate Tesanityam Viyuktanam Yoga Kshemam Bahamyaham. To that person who is dedicated to me, I preserve what they have and I carry what they lack. It's another way of saying I protect them. And it's not only, of course, on a physical, financial level, but I'm preserving what they need, what they lack, and I protect what they have. And we can add, and I take away what should be taken away. And this is famous. If possible, I will finish today's lecture with one example in connection to this verse. You may know this one. But there was one Brahmin who was studying the Gita every single day, and one day he found this verse. And Krishna said, Yoga Kshemam Bahamyaham. An implication, the Sanskrit implication in the verse is, I carry what they lack. And the implications in the Sanskrit, I do that personally myself. No, it's not that I make some arrangement through some agency. The verb implies I myself carry that. So for the devotee, it was like, I think here there is some grammatical mistake, some editing error. I mean, how Krishna will himself carry to whatever each of his devotees lack. So he how to say, scratch like that line, cross the line. And here instead of Bahami, which means I carry, put Karomi, which means basically in this case, I make the arrangement for that to happen somehow. So then the devotee left and went for Madhukari. He was a Brahmin. He was asking for some alms, begging alms, as they say. And meanwhile, his wife was at home preparing, cooking, and so on. And someone knocks the door, and the wife goes and opens the door, and there is a very small child, very charming boy, bringing many lots of groceries and vegetables and fruits and grains, and for a Kumbh Mela, basically, feast standard. And they were considerably poor. They were Brahmins, and that time the Brahmin style was they go to beg during the day, and whatever they receive, they honor that. If they do not receive anything, they fast. If they receive something, they honor that. If they honor that and still they have something extra, they give that in charity. So next day they start from scratch, zero. Again, depending, Krishna will protect. So they were pretty much poor. So this boy brought all this, and she was surprised, there must be a mistake. We don't have the capacity to afford all that. I said, no, your husband brought me here, sent me here with all the things for your house. And the wife was like, it's not possible. We never had that much money, acquiring power. Yeah, your husband, his name is this. Oh yeah, it's my husband. And he sent you with all this heavy stuff. You just a darling little boy. I mean, how cruel of my husband to do that. But please come home and take a seat and drink something. You must be tired bringing all this stuff. Okay. So the boy entering, when he's entering and gets closer, and the wife sees that the boy had how do you say?
Scratch.
Yeah, like a scratch. And he asks, what happened there? And it was just recently done, like open wound. What happened there? He said, your husband did that to me. So the wife was like, what's going on here? I married a monster. No, I never knew he was able to do such a thing. Please sit down. I will bring something to cure you and to heal you and bring something for eat and so on. So he sits there and she goes to the kitchen to prepare something. So meanwhile, the husband is coming back home. So and he didn't have the best day of Madhukari. He didn't receive anything, one single grain that day. So he was a little bit low spirits. And he enters the house and goes to the kitchen and he meets his wife, and the wife say, okay, now the monster of the house has come. And the husband is like, what's going on? Why you are telling that to me? And she's totally enraged. On top of that, you act like if nothing happened, like you don't know anything. And the husband said, what's going on? What the hell are you speaking about? She said, please do not be hypocritical. You have this child in the living room that is waiting. You sending him with such a big load of things. You are not able to carry that, and on top of that, you made that scratch. You were abusing him physically, and the husband is like, "What are you speaking about? I didn't do anything like that. And what with child? There's nobody in the living room." So the wife say, "Nobody. I closed the door. It's not." And they will go to the living room. There's nobody in the living room, but all the groceries were there. So the husband also was like, "Groceries? This boy?" So both the husband and the wife were like, "What's going on here?" So at one point, the husband looks into the direction of his Bhagavad Gita that he had read in the morning. And he had read that verse, remember, he closed the Gita when he left. And now he saw that the Gita was open. So he asked his wife, "You opened the Gita?" He said, "No." And he goes to the Bhagavad Gita. He had scratched the word, Bahami, I carry, and he wrote Karomi. And now he saw that the word Karomi was scratched. And it said Bahami. So he realized, oh my gosh, Krishna himself came to make his word truth. He carried all the stuff personally, and the scratch he had on his forehead was my scratch on the Bhagavad Gita, which is non-different from him. So he started to cry and was thrown into an ocean of separation and so on. And so my point, this story is proving, like when Krishna says, I carry that. I protect you. I protect you. And our job, as we said the other day, our job is to trust Krishna is doing his job. And if he needs to prove that in such a way like he did here, he will do that. But our job is to trust he's doing his job. Rakshishati Vishvasu. So anyhow, some sweet story to Madhurena Samapayat that they say we have to end with some sweets. So Srila Gurudev ki jai, Sriman Mahaprabhu ki jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Shri Gaur Nityananda ki jai, Shri Brajanath Haladarji ki jai, Simha Bhagavan ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Prema. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyaiva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Hari Bol.